Now there are other names that are under control beyond 2024. And this group honestly excites me more because I think this is the area where Monty Ossenfort can have it both ways. Very rarely in sports can you have your cake and eat it too as a general manager. It's very hard to blend short-term and long-term goals as a GM. There's always some type of short-term pressure that is weighing on you that kicks the long-term goals to the curb. There's always something in the immediate that is pulling you away from staying the course with what your big grand vision is for your team. But I think this group of pass rushers could allow Monty Ossenfort to really thread that needle. Get you an impactful player for this year, a player that can help this team in 2024, but also stay on course for building a team in 2025 to really break through in the NFC West and in the NFC. And let's start with one of those names, and that being the more likely of the Cleveland Browns pass rushers to get moved ahead of Tuesday's deadline, that being Zadarius Smith. So if a pass rusher is going to get moved by Cleveland, it feels like it's going to be Zadarius Smith and not Myles Garrett. Feels like Myles Garrett means too much to that city. The big contract, the compensation, I think is going to be more for Myles. Definitely going to be more. I just don't know how much more for Myles Garrett. So Zadarius Smith feels like an option for teams that call about Myles Garrett. Cleveland says, thanks, but no thanks. Hey, you interested in Zadarius Smith? I know you made the original phone call and we're interested in Myles Garrett, and that's going to cost way too much. And so we don't want to do that. Can we interest you in 32-year-old Zadarius Smith? That's what I think the Browns are going to do. Now, Zadarius Smith is 32 years old, and we were just talking about Emmanuel Ogbah at 30 years old. So Zadarius Smith is an older player. And so do you have the appetite to give him an extension outside of the way his deal currently applies? I'm not so sure, but is under team control beyond this year. So he satisfies the requirement to be in this group. I don't think he's the most attractive option that we're going to talk about here because of his age. That, to me, goes to the next player that we're going to talk about, because there's a lot about this situation that feels like it is perfect for both teams to be able to come together and make a deal. And that is Trey Hendrickson of the Cincinnati Bengals. Trey Hendrickson is 29 years old, has, I think, 7 sacks already this year after having double-digit sacks last year. He is 29 years old, so a younger player. The Bengals are underperforming on defense overall, have dug themselves a little bit of a hole. They're not completely out of it, and so that complicates things a little bit. But Trey Hendrickson wants a new deal outside of the deal that he currently has. He has one more year left on this deal, so he would play out the remainder of 2024 and then 2025, but wanted a new deal in the summer from the Cincinnati Bengals, so much so that he requested a trade in the summertime from the Cincinnati Bengals. And so is looking for a new contract, didn't get that new contract from the Bengals. The Bengals did not seem to have the appetite to solve this in the summer. He requested a trade. They didn't honor the request. The team is underperforming. Doesn't that sound like a player that the Arizona Cardinals can swoop in, call up the Cincinnati Bengals, offer some draft compensation? Maybe offer 3. You trade for Trey Hendrickson. You write up that new deal for him, so you pay him the remainder of his age 29 season. He's going to turn 30 in December, so you pay him for his age 31 year. You give him a 2 or 3 year contract extension. You maybe rework some of the money for next year, so you rip that up and make it a new 4-year deal or whatever you want it to be, and boom. You bring in a player that fits in your window and can help you right now and can help you over the next couple of years. Feels like the perfect fit. We've got Jadeveon Clowney in Carolina. We already know Carolina's open for business. They've already made a trade today by trading Deontay Johnson. So they're already making moves. So that's an easy call to make. With the Bengals, you just don't know if they're going to give up on a player that, when their defense is right, is one of their more impactful players. And if they still think they're in it, they're probably not going to field that phone call with a ton of urgency. They'll let it ring a couple of times. That's not an immediate pickup. Carolina, that's an immediate pickup. That phone rings. It's another GM. We're answering it. They've shown that they're open for business. They're 1-7. They've already traded Deontay Johnson. Jadeveon Clowney is a veteran player. That's another person, another player that can make sense for the Cardinals. Again, an older player, but somebody that can help now. And then Preston Smith, 31 years old, Green Bay, again, under contract beyond this year, but the problem there is he's 31 years old. So you're getting him for his age 31, age 32, age 33 seasons. You would like to find the sweet spot of having somebody maybe a little bit younger. It's why I keep circling back to Trey Hendrickson. So if you had to ask me, there are three names that all of the names that we've talked about that really excite me. Trey Hendrickson would really excite me. That doesn't feel likely unless you overwhelm the Bengals with compensation because they're still going to think that they're in it. But that would be the number one option for me. And then if I were the Cardinals, I would call up the Saints about Chase Young, and I would call up the Giants about Azeez Ojulari. And if I got either of those guys, I might sign them to an extension right away. I might try to get those guys in, even though they're technically one-year rentals, sign them to new deals, and I've got myself an option right away. So those are the three names. It's not a surprise I picked the names on the younger side of things because I'm trying to maximize the window. Again, I'm trying to thread that needle that I think Monty Ossenfort's able to thread. But I think there are options out there. The Saints are going nowhere. They're injured. Call them up about Chase Young. Call up the Giants about Azeez Ojulari. Trade for those guys. Sign those guys to an extension. Cross something off the list to be able to give your fan base something to get excited about for this year, but also build towards the future. There are names out there. This is not a trade deadline where you would have to square peg, round hole to try to improve this team. I just gave you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 names that we discussed. There's more than those 10 names. We just boiled it down to 10 for these last two segments. There's opportunity out there. Go find the opportunity if you're Monty Ossenfort.